Radio Al Ansar podcasts.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Fawzia Peer from Minara Chamber of Commerce, one of the board members. Now, today we have very interesting two youngsters. And they are going to introduce us to the concept or the insurance called SASRIA. So before I really get into it, I want to say welcome back, listeners. For this evening, inshallah, we will interest you with this insurance company that they are going to alert us on. And SASRIA is a public enterprise listed under Schedule 3B of the Public Finance Management Act number 1 of 1999. It is a non-life insurance company, I hear, that provides coverage for damage caused by special risks such as politically motivated malicious acts like riots, strikes, terrorism, and public disorders. And I'm sure we had quite a few this year and last year. So it's quite an apt insurance that we need to talk about today. It's important. So SASRIA also, I hear, provides special risk insurance to businesses. And I'm sure you business-minded people or businessmen or women out there and people that own assets within the borders of South Africa would like to know more about SASRIA. And the July 2021 unrest, many businesses would not have been around today if SASRIA did not act swiftly post the July 2021 unrests. So we would like to commend SASRIA on settling claims from the July 2021 unrest. So fantastic work, I must say. So the two youngsters that we have here today, when I asked for introduction, they said, no, I think we will introduce ourselves. Now that is called, youngsters who want to show off themselves. So we'll start off with, we have Yusuf Rasool.
Listeners, I would like to thank the Minara Chamber of Commerce for providing this platform to us to inform the listeners of SASRIA and what's currently happening with the changes on SASRIA. So my name is Yusuf Rasool. I am from Halifax Insurance Brokers. I've been in the industry for about 7 years now, plus minus. I've got a BCom degree complemented with an BCom honors. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Mr. Farhad Paruk to introduce himself.
Go for it, Farhad.
Walaikum salam, Fawzia. It's good to be back on Radio Al Ansar. Welcome to all our listeners. We've got a very interesting topic today regarding the cover and definition of what is SASRIA from an insurance perspective. So I've been in the industry plus minus close to 13 years now. And it's been an interesting journey. I've studied through UNISA, got my BCom degree, and ventured into corporate, and then from corporate went into insurance broking. And it's reached a period of plus minus 14 years. So thank you again to the Minara Chamber of Commerce and to Al Ansar to host us, and we look forward on the show to educate our listeners on what is SASRIA and the ins and outs of what's covered.
Thank you, Farhad. Thank you very much. I must say, when you say 13 years, and Farhad, you said?
Yusuf.
Oh, Yusuf?
7 years, plus
7
minus.
years. Okay, so 13 years and 7 years.
So we've got about 20 years combined experience sitting with you tonight.
So who has pulled out the information or learnt a lot from the dad? Who's taken the branch from dad?
So I think dad is not called dad during working hours. He is more like our mentor, our CEO, and our boss. So it's the both of us. We work closely with Mr. S.M. Rasool, our CEO of Halifax Insurance Brokers. He's taught us a lot about insurance. And he's mentored us along the way, and we thank him for what we know and who we are today.
That's great. Fantastic. And I never heard of SASRIA before. So can one of you possibly just let us know exactly, take us into what is SASRIA about, and don't go into too details so we can unpack certain points, inshallah.
Okay, so Fawzia, I think let's start with a bit of history on SASRIA. And SASRIA was formed in 1979. And, everyone listens and hears the word SASRIA, but the actual definition of SASRIA is it stands for the South African Special Risk Insurance Association. And when I say special risk, I think let's give you the listeners some background into how this plays a role in insurance cover. So when you mentioned earlier, this is a non-life insurance product. Non-life insurance covering of assets of businesses, motor vehicles, assets in terms of machinery, stock, buildings, etc. And your conventional insurance policy covers you for your normal perils such as fire, water, wind, hail, snow, theft, etc. And SASRIA plays a role in that it was created to fill a void or a gap in the market. Hence the term special risk. So and I'm not sure if any of the listeners are aware of this, but your conventional insurance policy does not cover damage to or from any political riot, strike, public disorder, civil commotion. So that is an exclusion on your policy schedule.
Okay.
So hence SASRIA was created with the intention to cover the void in the market. Right? So just to touch on that, SASRIA was formed in 1979 with this intention. It's a stand-alone policy in the sense that it's a separate policy. You are charged a separate premium on your insurance cover for SASRIA. They are a separate entity, so they are not linked to your actual insurance agent or company. And you would have noticed in the 2021 July unrest that those claims were paid by SASRIA, not your actual insurer. So just to touch on the definitions of SASRIA and what does it cover. So SASRIA will compensate you as a policy holder or as a business owner for damage to your property, whether it's your building, your stock, your assets, your machinery, which is directly related or caused by, and this is critical, riot, strike, public disorder. Right? Any act which is directed to overthrow or influence any government or state with force or fear, or any calculated attempt to bring about loss or damage to further any political aim. And I think this would have been prevalent in the 2021 riots where I think it commenced or started because of Jacob Zuma's imprisonment. And then you've got the act of any lawfully established authority.
Did you all have to I'll just intercept there. Did you all have to pay a lot out at that time? That was actually the first riot that
Correct.
we ever had.
Correct.
Here
I think
in
you had
Durban, particularly.
Yeah, I think countrywide you had the 1976 Soweto uprising.
Yeah, but you all only formed in 1979.
Correct. Yeah. So this was the first
riot for you all to intervene.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think there were a few smaller riots, but nothing that was prevalent on this scale. So it was an interesting experience for us. It was actually a shock for us because we had never been through something like this before.
And can I say that most of your funds have been depleted because of that?
Yeah.
Was it?
So as I mentioned earlier, SASRIA, which you pay a premium to, obviously had built up funds over the years, and they were responsible for entertaining and settling these claims. So just some facts in a nutshell. If I look back at the 2021 July riots, SASRIA paid out close to 32 million rand, with probably over 14,000 claims during the period. But I think one must commend SASRIA.
Sorry, Farhad, I think you mean 32 billion
32
rand.
billion. Sorry, did I say 32
Wow,
million?
Just 32 million is very little.
Yeah, so it's
So it's billion, yeah.
32 billion.
Yeah.
Close to 14,000 claims were registered.
At the riot.
Correct. So it was something that shocked us. But as I mentioned, hats off to SASRIA. They really came to the party and settled close to 60% of their claims during that period within a 4-month. I think 60% of claims were settled within a 4-month period. So hats off to them. But getting back to the definition of what does SASRIA cover, I think the last and the...
I think we'll just hang on with the definition, and let's just unpack this a little bit. That you had to give out a lot because of the riots and the strikes. Are strikes also covered in this?
Correct.
Yeah.
Strikes, riot,
Yeah.
public disorder, civil commotion.
Within strikes, it's what damage they do to assets. Like, for instance, we had a few where West Street, Smith Street, while they were walking around, they had this gnawberries, and they started just hitting at the windows, breaking some windows. So do you cover that as well for those shopkeepers, obviously? Not at random.
So provided the client has SASRIA cover in place,
Yes.
the premiums are paid.
Yeah.
SASRIA strictly compensates clients for material damage to property. They do not cover indirect damage or like, for example, if there was a planned strike down your street where your business premises is and you had to shut your business for the day, but your business was not materially damaged by those that were striking, then no, you do not have a SASRIA claim unless your premises suffered or your assets suffered material damage.
May I ask about what percentage of clients you'll have from 1979 to now? Is it a huge percentage of people really taking the insurance from you? Or there's a bit of a struggle there was?
So, Fawzia, I think initially when SASRIA was created, it's generally added to all of our policyholders' policies, be it a domestic policy, so whether it's for your house and your car, or to your business, SASRIA is generally added. It's a very rare circumstance that you'll get a client asking us to exclude SASRIA cover. So to answer your question, it is on all policyholders' policies. So
you got a good percentage of clientele. That's
correct.
What I'm saying.
Correct.
Okay. So maybe Yusuf, you want to take us through some definitions? Like, I would want you to cover what is civil commotion and explain what's looting. Looting can be many things. Now, for y'all, what kind of definition you're going to give me for looting, possibly for riots, and that of civil commotion? Start with civil commotion.
So I think whilst we're on this point in our presentation, I think it's important to understand the definitions in the eyes of the insurer. What does the insurer mean by civil commotion, right? So to SASRIA, civil commotion is a large-scale violence by members of the public causing injury to people or damage to property, right? Looting, the definition of that would be to steal goods, typically during a riot, strike, or civil commotion. Looting must take place during an event that SASRIA covers. SASRIA strictly does not cover theft. So if you have a break-in at your premises overnight, that is not covered by SASRIA. That's covered by your theft section under your policy with the insurance company. And then if we go to riot, in terms of case law, riot means the disturbance of public peace by an assembly of 3 or more persons. I think the important point here is 3 or more persons acting together in the execution of some private objective.
So, Farhad, why do you think it's important that businesses should take this this cover? Like, if today now at home they are having popcorn, listening, because there's no lights, and now I hear it is for 2.5 hours. So they're going to listen to Al Ansar, inshallah, I hope so. So why do you think these businesses should take your cover? I mean, this SASRIA cover. And why do you think it has become relevant as well?
Okay, so Fawzi, I think the first is times change. If I look at 1979, SASRIA was created, but I don't think that the actual demand for SASRIA was there. Obviously, we were going through a small political change at that time in 1994. But as mentioned, I think the country was still in a good position. If I roll forward and come to 2023, I think circumstances have changed. If I look at our economy, if I look at load shedding, with the possible inclusion of grid failure, if I look at the 2021 unrest which have occurred, gives us an indication that things are volatile. So, having said that, and when I first started, I mentioned that your normal insurance cover excludes damage from political riot and strike. Right? So, I think the most critical thing is...
And you guys cover that?
Well, SASRIA covers it.
Yeah.
So SASRIA is firstly covering the void. They're the only insurer in our country that offers the cover. So that's important. So they're covering the void. And I think, secondly, as I mentioned, to take into consideration the circumstances and the environment we're living in nowadays, SASRIA is crucial to have.
Well, I'm also looking at this. What are the benefits? I mean, tell us a few benefits for those who don't know SASRIA. Like, what are just pick on benefits, particularly.
So SASRIA follows your underlying insurance policy. So what do I mean by that is, if you have fire cover under your business policy, which covers your stock and your machinery, and for sakes there's a riot tomorrow, and your business burns as a result of that riot, SASRIA will cover the damage to the assets. So it will cover damage to stock, damage to machinery, and you will obviously then be put back into the position that you were in, so that you can continue running your business, and get back up on your feet.
I think there were a few posts or articles that I Googled the other day, and around the proposed amendments to SASRIA in terms of riots and blackouts. Now, maybe you should advise us what were the changes, what were the proposed changes. One of you can just talk on that.
Okay, so just very briefly, on the 28th of April this year, SASRIA issued a circular, more specifically circular number 526, which in a nutshell basically states that grid failure would be an exclusion under SASRIA policies effective the 1st of June 2023. I think that's when most, if not all, business owners started panicking. SASRIA went back to their drawing board and they issued a further circular on the 5th of May 2023, more specifically circular number 527, which basically withdrew the grid failure exclusion. So I think this would put clarity and would bring peace of mind to most business owners that were highly confused. So SASRIA has officially withdrawn circular number 526, which excluded grid failure. So we have taken it upon ourselves as insurance brokers, and we've spoken to various employees at SASRIA who sit in executive positions, and we've also clarified the confusion surrounding grid failure with SASRIA. And I think the conclusion is that currently there is no grid failure for SASRIA. There is no grid failure exclusions under your SASRIA policy wording. I hope that brings peace of mind to most business owners out there.
Okay, so before you can just, you spoke so much about grid failure, electricity grid failure. Before we get to that, tell us a little bit about what you mean when you say the grid failure.
Okay, so I'm going to expand on what electricity grid failure means when it comes to SASRIA. So different insurers have different understandings or definitions of electricity grid failure. It's not one size fit all. So in the lines of SASRIA, electricity grid failure means the total or partial failure of, interference with, interruption of, or suspension of any electricity supply in any manner and from any source and for any reason, which affects an entire or major part of any municipal area or any major or any major part of any province or the country substantially as a whole or at the same time. So when you speak about grid failure, it's not the whole country just going black, right? It could be an area, a province, it's not limited to the whole country, right? And just to clarify for the listeners out there, load shedding is not considered to be an electricity grid failure. Load shedding is a planned event. It's foreplanned, forewarned. You can prepare for it.
Okay, that's generally speaking, but you must remember one thing, and as a message to you guys, that if the grid collapsed tomorrow, it would take Eskom, in a best case scenario, I would say around a week to restore power. However, it is also anticipated that it will most likely take several weeks if it happened. So let's pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps this grid not to come to its failure. Even we're all going to be in total darkness. And they even say that there would be a cascade of problems affecting supply chains in transport, banking, in fuel supply, in food security, I think, and also personnel and business security. And one could expect, when it's all in darkness, protests and riots are also anticipated. So let's hope so that we don't come to that ultimate, grid failure. So, ladies and gentlemen, or I would say listeners out there, we have come to our final discussion on SASRIA with our two young aspiring youngsters that have given us a very good account on SASRIA, the insurance brokers they are, and I think it's a national insurance company, but they are the brokers out here, and I must say they know quite a bit on this, especially ranging from 13 years to 7 years, and maybe even more when it goes to Halifax. What is your dad's name? I completely forgot.
Mr. Sarfaraz Muhammad Rasool. Call him Saf for short.
Yes, Sarfaraz. Give him my salams.
I will do.
And also to your beautiful mum. She actually started it, I think, from what I remember. She was the backbone of insurance or whatever you all had previously.
Correct. So Halifax Insurance Brokers was started in 1998 by both husband and wife,
Yeah.
Mr. Rasool and Mrs. Sheikh and Mrs. Rasool.
Yeah.
My apologies. So yeah, we've come a long way. The insurance industry is changing day by day, so we do urge clients to keep in touch with the insurance brokers, keep up with the changes in the industry, listen to our shows on Radio Al Ansar. Hopefully they invite us back again.
Inshallah. If you have something new to tell us, good.
So I think there's always something new to share in the insurance industry, because if you look at our country at the moment, we are going through a lot, and insurance companies have to adjust and adapt with the times.
Absolutely, yeah. And then you may have to augment your policy, according to environment and what's happening presently in the organizations and institutions. And one can expect anything these days, from riots to whatever. So, Farhad, in closing, what would you have for your conclusion to the listeners out there?
So, Fawzia, I think, look, at this point, there's no need to panic. As Yusuf has mentioned, SASRIA has retracted the circular of 525 and 526. So, at the moment, if there is grid failure, SASRIA will cover damages related to political riot and strike. So, to conclude, I don't think there needs to be any panic at this stage. We'll obviously have to wait and see what SASRIA come out with in the near future to understand what and what will not be covered. So at this stage, I think, and I hope everyone has a better understanding and brings about some clarity in the confusion of what was issued and what has been retracted.
So I think what I would suggest is if SASRIA does at a later stage make any further changes to their policy wordings or issue any further circulars, on behalf of Halifax insurance brokers, we would be more than happy to come back to Radio Al Ansar and highlight on those changes and how to adapt to them. And in closing, SASRIA as an insurer will continue to fill this void in our market. Personally, I believe that without SASRIA as an insurer, many businesses would not be around today, especially after the July 2021 unrest. And I think the listeners need to look at insurance companies as a certain friend in uncertain times.
Well said to both of you, and thank you very much for coming over. And I would say in closing, don't be afraid of change. You may lose something good, but you will gain something even better. So thank you very much, and I'm sure Minara Chamber will call you once more and give us more interesting facts about SASRIA or anything else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fawzia.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Radio Al Ansar podcasts.